Hi guys, I just wanted to do a quick video today to discuss layout and location. As I said previously in other videos, properties is generally quite forgiving. I mean, you can get a lot of things wrong, and you have the opportunity to fix them. Sometimes you have to do it very quickly, but it is forgiving. And you can make it right. That said, there are two things that if you get wrong, it's pretty difficult to correct. And those two things are the first one being the location. So if you get the location wrong, it's I mean, you'd probably have just to sell it. So that's why it's really important to get to have a lot of exits when you're sourcing the property, just in case if you do get it wrong, at least you've got other options with it. Now with sourcing HMOs properties, it's if you're about 2 streets off the main road, so off an A road that's heading into the city centre or near employment, so I've got a bit of code, then you should be okay. I mean, again, that can be, it's not the worst if you get it wrong, but yeah, location is really important. The second bit is, and probably something that I'd like to talk more about today is the layout of the actual property itself. Because obviously once that's done, and once that's up, it's going to be really expensive to correct and to be put right. So with regards to layout, now architects and builders, they will only understand the property from a sort of more technical perspective. For example, architects themselves, even though they have experience with HMOs, you can't expect them to understand what layouts work best for HMOs and for HMO tenants, and that's not really their job. They can plan things to make sure that they're compliant, and maybe in terms of the plumbing and things like that, and, electrics and what sort of materials to use, but they won't understand what layout works best for tenants and for tenant management. And again, they shouldn't really be expected to. The best person to talk to with regards to layout is actually letting agents and management agents and other investors, other experienced investors. Now, obviously the issue with that is that there's really nothing in it for them, for the letting agents and other investors to sort of give you that advice. Being that it's quite time consuming because everything is very specific to the investor, to the deal. Each layout, each floor plan will be specific to that particular property, and there's a lot of thought involved. There's a lot of decisions you have to make. And obviously, these people, myself for example, we're busy, got things to do. So yeah, it's going to be tricky, So when you do find somebody who's able to give you that sort of advice, it's time consuming, so it probably should be valued. So yeah, I mean, architects, even though architects have the technical expertise or have experience with HMOs, don't rely on them to come up with the best layout for you in terms of tenant and management requirement. Like with builders, they will understand things from a building perspective, but they won't understand it from a tenant and investment perspective. So with that in mind, so so let me go into more detail. With layout, the important thing, for example, is to always have as much room as possible for the tenant. You know, if you can get an ensuite in there, great. With that, you know, the ensuite itself doesn't need to be massive. What I find with a lot of tenants is that they just want an ensuite. Well, specifically, they don't want to share bathroom or bathroom facilities with other people. So as long as they've got an ensuite, you know, a bathroom in their actual room, then they're happy. It doesn't need, that bathroom, the ensuite, doesn't need to be big, as long as it's functional. So as long as they've got a bathroom in their room, they're happy. The important thing is actually the size of the bedroom. I mean, that's really the sort of the big deciding factor for tenants when they're looking at rooms. So ideally, you want that bedroom to be as big as possible. I find that ensuites in bedrooms, you know, sort of 2 meters squared is probably the minimum. 2.5 is, you know, is quite, you know, it's pretty functional. It's pretty good. 3, I mean, it's nice to have, but if you're taking away space from the main bedroom, then, you know, it might be a bit too much space for an ensuite. Obviously, if your room's massive, you know, like 16 meters plus, then actually, yeah, a 3 meter square ensuite is absolutely fine. So in the rooms themselves, actually, let me quickly go through it in terms of design. In terms of the layout, now what you want really is a minimum size. Minimum size of any bedroom should be a double room. By that I mean, you know, for example, in Birmingham, the current minimum room size requirement for a double room is 10.2 meters squared. It's just not worth having a room smaller than 10.2 meters squared. It's not great for the tenant. It's not great for the mental health. But, you know, from a technical perspective, if you've got a room smaller than 10.2 meters squared, you're going to need a bigger communal space. And, you know, communal space is, yes, you know, as big as possible. But when you have to have the communal space of a certain size, I think it's about 18 point something, to allow you to have single rooms, then in terms of numbers, layout and things like that, it just won't work out. It's actually better just to have a smaller communal area, and then, you know, do your best to get a bigger bedroom, because the bigger bedroom is actually what's important. And obviously, it's important to have a large communal area as well, especially for the tenant's mental health. Now, with that, try to have a communal space that's functional. You know, with kitchen and dining table areas. You don't need to have a dining table of 6 people. You know, with 6 seats and everything like that. The chances of 6 people sitting around having dinner and chatting in a HMO is extremely rare. You're more likely to have maybe 4 people, and it's more often the case that they're just hanging around, probably about half an hour, chatting, and then they'll carry on doing their whatever it is that they're going to do. Or, for example, when they've got visitors, and they'll just hang out there for a bit, and then they'll carry on with, you know, whatever it is that they're planning to do for the rest of the day. So in that respect, it's actually better to have for example, a breakfast bar where you fit, you know, 4 people, and like a separate space, a separate area within that sort of kitchen communal space, where you can put a sofa, a 2-seater sofa, or an armchair, and a coffee table. So you've got a clear, visible, different space or different area within that communal space. So you have 2 groups of people, or 2 people doing different things, sharing that communal space, but so sharing a space together, but without the need to be in front of each other's face, if you understand what I mean. So, for example, you can have maybe 2 people at the breakfast bar making dinner, having a chat, and maybe somebody else who, you know, wants to share the space with them, but don't really want to fully engage in that conversation. Maybe they don't want to be in their bedroom. Maybe they want to be outside of their bedroom, which is actually very is very helpful. But they want to be outside the bedroom. Maybe they want to use the computer, their laptop, in the communal area. Maybe have a read, but they don't want to fully engage in the other parties, and that's absolutely fine. I find an arrangement of that sort of space to be a lot more attractive, a lot better than just to have, for example, a big open plan dining table for 6 people. It's just, although we like to think that that's what people like to do, or that's what tenants like to do, the reality is that that's not what tenants and HMOs actually do. And also certain areas as well, you're just not going to attract those of tenants. Certain areas you might have 6 people sitting around a dining table and hanging out for hours watching films and things like that. It's very, very rare that will happen. In some areas, people just probably won't even interact. It is nice to have that communal space, to give them the option, and it's mostly really just to see another friendly face, and so that they're not stuck in a room. I mean, that's the real value. Okay, and with regards to the layout of washing machines, high traffic items, for example, you'd probably want noisy electronics, noisy items as far away from from other bedrooms as possible. So sometimes there's a bedroom near the kitchen diner. So what you want to do really is move the washing machine to as far away from that wall as possible, just for the noise. Just keep the noise away from that tenant in that bedroom. Things like fridge freezers, you don't want that too near the entrance, because that's where you're going to create bottlenecks with traffic. So people are going to come in, they're going to hang around there, and maybe they're cooking, they'll go to the fridge freezer, they get stuff out, and the fridge doors will open. You don't want people to be walking into that. Then at the same time, when you're planning out these sorts of stuff, you need to plan out where to put the bins as well. So generally speaking, you want enough space for 2 50-litre bins, recycling, and a standard bin for rubbish. You probably want that not at the front door. Not near the front door, because that will create a lot of smell. And if you're taking viewings, when having visitors, that will make a bad first impression. So ideally, you want that bin covered, and you want it away from the main entrance to the kitchen. Ideally, you want it near the back, or near access to the back or to the front, but not too near the front, just so that when you're emptying bins, you don't get bin juice and rubbish dripping all over the floor. Around the bin area, ideally you'd want it to be covered in some sort of gloss, just so that when you're cleaning, it seems to attract a lot of dirt around bin areas and grime. If you put it around there, then you can also spray it down as well, just for the cleaning. I think that should cover it for the. That should be it for the communal space. I can't remember what else is there. Windows, bins, yeah. So the other thing to consider then is the design for bedrooms. I'm sorry, if you can put a shoe rack in the front entrance, that generally promotes a really culture in the household. So straight away when the tenants enter, think, okay, so I need to take my shoes off, I need to respect this property, and then it also shows that actually other housemates there respect that property as well. So what I'm going to do now is we'll go up the stairs. I will do shortly to talk about the layout of a room. Okay, so give me a second. Okay, so let's use this as an example. Now, again, with bedrooms, you want them as big as possible. Ideally, so when you're planning a room out, you want the entrance. You want to walk into a bedroom and have everything within sort of a clear line of sight. You don't want any obstructions. So, for example, this is a good space for a door. There, come into there, because when you walk in, you've got this sort of clear line of sight without any obstruction. This space here would not be a good space. Would not be a good place to place a door, because you're walking in and you're in this sort of a narrow hallway. So you walk in. A lot of people. So ideally, you don't want cupboards or wardrobes facing the side of you. You actually want it facing you. It's just that if, for example, if you had a cupboard on the side here facing you straight away, that would block your view from the rest of the property. In terms of dressing the room, the bed would probably look best in the centre because it's symmetrical. But the reality is you probably want the bed in the corner so that you've got this big space clearly visible and clearly functional when you walk in. It actually looks a lot better as well. The bed, generally speaking, you want that away from other high traffic areas. So you don't want it on this wall because next to this wall is the bathroom. You probably want it to next to that wall because that has the least people on the other side. Again, cupboards, chest of drawers and things. So for example, I'll probably put a chest of drawer here because it's functional. You can put the keys down and you put the mirror here. And when you're walking in, it doesn't obstruct your line of sight. In fact, it's actually just below your eyes, so you can't really see it. Whereas if the chest of drawers was to go over there, you'd probably see that straight away. So, for example, let's walk in. Walk into this room, and you look around like that. If the chest of drawers was to go underneath there, you wouldn't really see that. If the chest of drawers to go over there, you would see that, and it will make the room look a bit smaller. What else is there? Yeah, so I mean that's it really. So so this is, I'll give you an well, we had to do this in here to make the space work, but this is kind of like a bad example. Well, actually, that's not too bad. Okay, so this entrance here, for example, what you don't want, I mean this is so bad, is pretend this wall comes out here. So you don't want that door to open and then for the tenant to straight away be looking at another wall going across here or wardrobe. It's just dead space. There's nothing you can do there at all. The door will just hit into it. As soon as you walk in, you're looking at another wall. It doesn't make the room look very big. Worktop, yes, studios. Tenants do want studios, but it's extremely risky because of the, that means you have to do a bit of plumbing. When you put a sink in there, then you're quite exposed to individual banding, which councils are starting to do now. I would just put worktops in each room, a mini fridge, a mini fridge underneath the worktops, a sort of a wardrobe, a cupboard on top, and then you can use that worktop. You can turn it into a breakfast bar. You can use that as a desk. You can use that as extra storage. You can put a microwave coffee machine in there and use that as well. So that actually sells the lifestyle pretty well. There's plenty of stuff you can do with it, and if you need to move it, you just move it. There's no plumbing involved. Just draw furniture. If your furniture's always facing you, I think that's it really. So yeah, just to recap, the important thing is properties is really forgiving. I mean, incredibly forgiving. Just make sure you get that location right. And again, with that sort of stuff, it's probably best to ask somebody in sales or in lettings management in the local area for their advice, because they'll know what rent you get, they'll know what your voids are like, they'll know what type of tenants you'll get as well, so they can tell you the demand and the amount of issues you would have. With regards to floor plan, again, architects, they're great. They can tell you from the technical side of things, but it's rare that you'll find an architect that can draw out a floor plan for HMO that is really, really suitable for the tenants at the HMO, and also from a management point of view as well. So it's best to try and get advice from some sort of letting agent, if possible. You might have an architect that will have a lot of experience in HMOs. Sorry, that they might have their own HMOs and they might manage their own HMOs, and they might like their own HMOs. It's rare, but you might, and that will be like the perfect, sort of the perfect person to talk to. It's really rare. So it's probably not going to happen. All right, hopefully that's been helpful. And what I'll do is, I actually wrote up a similar email to this earlier. So what I'll do is I'll edit that and I'll post the main details in the description, just in case that's helpful. In case I've missed out anything as well, which I probably have. This is a bit of a spur of the moment thing. All right, hopefully that's been helpful. See you guys soon.